Welcome to my Bob Thurman podcast. I'm so grateful some good friends enabled me to present them to you. If you enjoy them and find them useful, please think of becoming a member of Tibet House US to help preserve Tibetan culture. Tibet House is the Dalai Lama's cultural center in America. All best wishes. Have a great day.
This is episode 345.
Welcome, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with my guest, who is the wonderful, notable, remarkable Andy Chaleff, who wrote this great book, Dying to Live, which I love. Although, I should write a counterpart saying "Dying to Die."
Yeah.
Just for balance. Just for balance. But no, I 100% love the title and the book. And actually, I learned something very important from it, which will come out during our discussion. And that was really quite wonderful. And so anyway, welcome, Andy Chaleff. How are you?
Thank you. I'm
And
very well, and I'm grateful to be with you for this time. Yeah.
it's really good. It's really fun. And you have
Yeah.
a beard. And
Yes. I'm in Puerto Rico, so I've got a lot of heat. I've
what do you
got,
mean? I thought you were in Indonesia.
I was, but I had to travel here, so I happened to be here for this call. That was where yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Mm.
Yeah, because I was wondering how could Indonesia have daylight at this time? I get it
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, everything is backwards.
It is. Well, so, and Andy is in Puerto Rico, although he has moved his
Yes.
residence to Indonesia, which I'm very
Mm.
fascinated by.
Yeah.
So, in his book, you record many cases. Are you I'm not sure. Are you technically a counselor officially, like a shrink or something?
It No,
Yeah.
I went through the life of hard knocks, I think, which a lot of people do. And, when I was 19, my mom was killed by a drunk driver.
Oh no.
And,
Yes, of
and
course I remember that. That's in there.
yeah,
Yeah.
of course. And that flipped my life upside down. And
Yes.
when I was 20, I left America and hadn't lived in America now for 35 years. And it was more of like running away from the pain of that loss was the journey and traveling and
I
kind of
didn't realize
yeah,
that in the sense that
yeah,
I left Harvard at 2021
yeah,
to go to India to find a guru, and I was never going to go back to America and so on. And the same age actually, but that me much earlier than you, of course.
yeah,
But as you are much younger, but that's fascinating, really. I don't know if you
yeah,
remember the age in the book. I remember your account of how the death of your mother
yeah,
was really precipitated
yeah,
your angling with death.
yeah.
So what? So okay, please go. So go carry
Yeah,
on.
so that was the journey. The journey was escaping that pain, and that
Yes,
pain defined me for most of my life. And
yes,
it wasn't until, what normally happens, you get to your 30s or 40s. Luckily, if it's 30, and you look in the mirror and you say, "Wow, if this is my life, I'm really not happy with the movie script that's written from it. This is not the script I want at the end of my
really.
life." Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then I quit my job, sold everything I owned, and I found I mean, I don't know if he'd like for me to call him my guru, but I found my guru,
I
and
see.
a
So who's that?
non-dual.
Please remind me. Who's the guru?
Well, no, his name was Case de Brown, and he was very fond of Krishnamurti, and he was
Yeah,
very strong non-dual teachings, and I spent
yeah,
a decade with him, and
yeah.
I wasn't the greatest student, but what I did was, and this is what I learned, and I only realized this is part of the Buddhist teaching, is that
Yeah.
there's a lot less teaching and there's a lot more modeling of behavior. And it's through seeing the other that you begin to embody it yourself without needing to sort of learn the content. It becomes almost implicit.
Yeah.
And
So
and
yes,
that
that's at a certain level after a lot of learning in some
yeah,
cases.
yeah.
And some people who have the former life propensity, as the Buddhists would understand it, then they don't need all that learning, you know. So really,
Yeah.
that's great. And where was it that you were mentored by the guru?
So I actually lived in Vienna, Austria, and then he came
Uh-huh.
into the company I was in, and I remembered being at my desk and I started to sweat and get anxious because I realized like that rabbit hole went further than anything I could see the bottom of. And
Oh,
it was only a few weeks later I just quit and left everything and then moved to Amsterdam. And that was it.
Amsterdam. Ah, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And then I
Right.
moved to Amsterdam. And then I
Yeah.
was with him for a decade and he died. So
Yes.
when
Oh.
he died, it was really beautiful because I had the ego of somebody who was successful, and then I lived in service to somebody who had a beautiful vision, and then he died, and then I felt like that fear and the now it's my responsibility, whatever that means, I didn't yet know
Yes.
to
Yes.
carry it forward. I could get emotional, I could cry about it
Yes.
because it's the most beautiful feeling in the world to say, I don't know what it is, but it can't be absent the gift he's given me.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I get it. I
Yeah. And
get
then
it.
I started writing books, and I hadn't written a book, but I just intuitively said, I'll let the writing guide me. And I went through my first three books, and then I got to the book of what's the most uncomfortable topic, the thing I would
Oh,
want to write least of, the thing I don't want to spend any time with, and then death was the one. And I've always felt there's a beauty in sitting with the discomfort and not trying to understand it, but be as vulnerable as you can in the sharing of what it feels like. And that was why I decided to take on death as a
I
subject.
think it's totally great. And but now I realize why I wasn't so much aware of the guru, because in the earlier books you must have told that story.
Yes, of course.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that was in the
That means that. What's the
yeah.
name of the book you tell about the guru?
That would have been the last letter. The
The
last
Last
letter.
Letter.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
because
Folks,
the
everybody should look that one up. I'm sure that's
yeah.
awesome. I will
Yeah,
now do
it's
that. I'm
it was
sorry I didn't do
beautiful.
that before now. I
Yeah.
should. Okay, so
Yeah.
what was sort of the gist of it? You said he was a Krishnamurti student himself?
Yeah, what he forced me to see was this polarity in my thinking all of the time and the creation of
Uh-huh.
story. And
Uh-huh.
I can't say he was a loving teacher. He's almost like someone, if you put your hand out, he'd smack you. And so it was a
Oh,
bit,
good. Well,
there
to me,
wasn't,
that's a good sign.
yeah,
It's a good sign.
there wasn't like, hey, I'm gonna soften you up to the message. He's like, you know, Andy, you're missing the point. You're missing the, and he would
Oh,
explain
yeah.
it, but I wouldn't understand it until I felt it. I embodied it, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh wow, that's what it feels like when you're in the state of seeing life or things in that way,
Yes.
and that was beautiful.
And that way, what is that way now? Come on, say.
Oh,
What is that way?
ah. I want to get emotional because it's so beautiful. It's when the seer and the beer are equally inhabiting your consciousness. It's
Oh,
it's 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 this
mm-hmm.
the Andy who is so pathetic and judgmental and frustrated and angry, and then the seer simultaneously laughing at him and having fun
I
and
see.
almost and not giving anyone the control,
I
not taking
see.
and and then seeing the construction of everything in terms of the narration and how
Yes.
that narration is defining me as I'm it's almost like the humor of even seeing myself do anything and then realizing that way I'm creating an identity and I'm now stuck again and
I
the
see.
and there's compassion and there's love and there's appreciation and gratitude and it all arises from that kind of the simplicity of seeing through your own thoughts without making it intellectual but just being
Yeah.
with that. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So the seeing is pushing you past the, because when you do your anti-identity, then you're automatically can seem like getting stuck there, and then the seer will see through that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the
Where,
seer will see the relativity of the identity and that it's
yeah,
only a temporary thing. And
yeah.
then what about um, does the seer encourage you to shape a different kind of identity or constantly change the different relative identities, so to speak?
I would say if the seer in my mind, and this is just how I would say I experience it, if the seer is doing that, then the seer is wanting of something or desiring of something, then that would seems like it would fall back into the ego
Ah,
identity.
it would become frozen as a seer. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
So
see, I see.
it
So it
would
leaves
never
it
in my
entirely
yeah,
up to you, to your
yeah,
identity, or rather, you leave it up to yourself and your identity play
yeah,
to have to move beyond any stuck one or something like
yeah.
that.
I
Have to
mean,
move.
and people would say that when they're with me, they'll say, even when I'm suffering, it's oh, I have so much compassion for my suffering that it's not really suffering. You know, it's like almost like it's like yeah, I see you suffering, but like I write an article every week, and I write about the harder parts of my life, but I'm never feeling like I'm stuck in those moments. It's like no,
Yeah,
this is a it's an honest feeling. It's honestly coming up and it's expressed in its fullest emotional state, but it doesn't
yeah.
mean that's who I am. It means that's an experience I've had.
I
And
see. Yes.
yeah, that's the
So
feeling.
where do you publish that article? Where does one find that?
I published that on Substack.
Oh,
On
Substack. Oh, good. Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I did realize. Yeah. Okay.
It's a
Andy,
wonderful place to
Andy
publish.
Chaleff on Substack. Did
Yeah.
your Substack does your Substack offering have a title separate from
It's
that?
just my name, Andy Chaleff.
Andy Chaleff.
Andy
Okay.
Chaleff, yeah. I'd love to share
Okay.
one story if I may, which
Please,
was
please.
just so I was in Jakarta, like I said, for about half a year, feeling very lonely and isolated. The time zone is exactly 12 hours difference from New York, so it's very hard to engage with people. And then
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time not really engaging with the world, and then Thanksgiving came. And then I
Yeah.
said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out to an event because I've got to put myself in the world and meet some new friends. So then
Yeah.
I saw the America Club had a Thanksgiving dinner. So then I went to the dinner and it was a banquet setting and the typical buffet. And I go in and they seat me. There's 15 round tables. Each table has eight chairs. And they
Yeah.
seat me at the only table that only has one seat for me. So there's eight chairs, but they seat me alone at this table.
Oh
And
no.
and the gorgeous thing was I wanted to cry. And I wanted to cry because the table was like a reflection, a mirror to me of how I felt inside. And I was
Oh,
like, how beautifully represented is this of how my inner state is? And it's being reflected
oh,
to me in the most visceral of ways.
oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, and
That's
then I get to
really,
write. I get to write about that. I get to feel the pain and the loneliness, but that doesn't define me. It's not. It's also who I am, but it isn't just that. And there's a beauty in
so
that.
I know nobody came over to your table and you couldn't go around
No,
that. The other ones
no
were
one
all
came.
full
The others were all full. I couldn't just
because you
walk over.
hadn't known any of them beforehand
I
or,
didn't know anything. It was assigned seating. They put me where I was sitting, and it was just here you go. And now,
oh,
and the
oh,
last thing I wanted to go out was to go out to eat dinner alone. And then this table happened to be right at the front of the room. Everyone had to walk past me to get to their table, so it was almost
oh,
humiliating. It was just beautiful, and that level of just utter absurdity is where the seer gets to laugh and have fun and just enjoy it and then then this one who's feeling the pain of the loneliness is just also there thinking this feels horrible. I went out to meet people. I feel more alone now than I did before I arrived.
oh
Yeah,
my.
yeah,
Well, probably what at the embassy there is the Trump administration ambassador
yeah.
and these
I
kind
don't
of
even
people.
know. Yeah, it was.
Really, that's really something. It's quite amazing, actually, that they would be like that. And they
Yeah,
knew who you were, that you were just there, you were newbie there, and all this.
they knew all
Nobody
of it,
came over
but
to say hello.
no. But that's life, and that's the kind of that's the when you're on the ride, you don't get to decide the experience. You only get to decide how you embody it and how you metabolize
I
it.
know.
Yeah.
In that situation, I think I would have eaten quickly and left.
Yeah.
I would have been disillusioned and badly. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
so now what's happened in Puerto Rico? What do you have a residence there, or what's going on in
You
Puerto
know,
Rico?
as you know, like because we have a mutual friend, which is how we came to meet one another,
Yeah,
and I'm basically I visit clients around the world. I'll take a kind of a world tour once or twice a year, and just
I
to
see.
visit clients, and all my clients are friends, so we say I
Yeah.
love you, and we connect, and
Oh, that's great.
we find a way to kind of go through life together and then sometimes we work more and sometimes we work less, but I make it a habit or a discipline. We're going to physically be together once a year at least if we're going to be working together. That's that.
That's really good. That's really
Yeah.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
Puerto Rico. I went there one time and to San German. Do you know? Oh, you
Oh
don't know
yeah,
that? Well, you know
I
San
think
German,
I've heard the name. Yes.
the
Yeah.
southwest part of the island.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was quite nice. I had a weird art collecting friend who had a
Oh
shop
yeah.
there, antiquity shop there, and a
Oh,
built
I
place
love
there.
that.
We went there, and it's a beautiful
Yeah.
island. I was always having trouble. Why is
Yeah.
people having poverty here? It must be America's fault, because it's a really
Yeah.
lovely island.
It's lovely.
It
Yeah.
really is fantastic. So then what I learned from your book, which I really liked, is that the belief that death is the end,
Mm.
facing that. Although from a certain point of view, from a Hindu or a Buddhist point of view, that's mistaken actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
But but the fact that it has been important for 300-400 years in the West is a sign that it was a very good way. I mean, I could have intellectually said that it was a good way of getting away from the fear of hell that was drummed into people's heads in the West very, very much by the preachers,
Yeah.
kinds, the fire and brimstone preachers who were in
Yeah.
charge of stuff, and the weird Calvinism and everything.
Yeah.
But and the way, therefore, it's a kind of balm for that. At least, you're not facing the terror of
Yeah.
infinite pain.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of letting go of your sense of control of your instrument, of your
Yeah.
embodiment. And that to me was a kind of gave me more tolerance of that view.
Yeah, I can imagine
And,
because the
and
one thing the yeah.
The Dalai Lama is so sweet. In Buddha's time, there was someone who promoted that view in a humorous manner, actually,
Uh-huh.
which was he used to say, "Well, if you can go to the afterlife after you die, and then become an ancestor, and then your progeny can send you tea and cookies through the fire, through
Mm.
rituals. Why
Yeah.
are we being so stingy? Why don't we just jump in ourselves and throw in the whole harvest?"
Yeah.
They would make jokes like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
then
yeah,
the
yeah.
Dalai Lama says, although we disagree with the impact of that worldview, that there's no future life, but nevertheless, and all the other Hindus do too, and the Jains do too. But
Yeah.
we everyone calls the guy who sort of was the main protagonist of that. We
Yeah.
call him a rishi anyway.
Oh wow.
We
Yeah.
say he's a rishi, and so
Wow.
that shows the tolerance for different views, that people can
Yeah.
have. Even though we will be at pains to try to refute it in an
Yeah.
individual case, to encourage them to prepare rather for the future as
Yeah.
well as learning to let go in the present.
Yeah.
And your book confirmed for me, in an emotional way, in a lived way, how that does work for people really well.
Yeah.
And I think you can't, when like people in hospice and things, they can't be starting
Mm.
to debate former future life with someone who's thinking. And
Yeah.
it's very nice that they're slipping into a velvet nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what's interesting though? It's funny
Fine.
because when you say that I was saying there was no afterlife, I was really careful to say that I'm agnostic as
Yes,
to
that's true.
the
That's true.
idea. Because what I didn't want to say, and I wrote it, there was that one chapter which was really hard for me to
Yes,
write, and
yes, I did notice that. Yeah.
I wrote the chapter, Is There a God?
Yeah.
And sitting with it, let's put it this way, Bob. If the question made me uncomfortable, I wrote about it. Like any question that's like, oh, this is a hard one to touch. And what I and the reason for it was there's so many people that are disenchanted with the Catholic teachings, right? Like it's
Oh, yeah,
been,
of course.
I
That's
mean,
including me.
and there's so much animosity in it. It's a group that's utterly shocked me how much animosity there is.
Oh, yeah, the atheists are really pissed if you talk about God. Absolutely.
Oh my, I mean, and I was trying to sit there and I'm like, wow, you don't realize the hatred to something is almost as bad as the desire for the thing, right? Like there's a space in that middle which is so beautiful, which has
Yes.
so, and then the humor of it is that that's a space I found for, with my mentor, as I mentioned, but to some degrees it overlaps a lot with Buddhism. My friends will joke with me and say, Andy, you're a
Yeah,
Buddhist,
well,
whether you,
God does well with Buddhism. This is typical of all the big misunderstandings of Buddhism,
yeah,
that they are atheists, which they're totally not.
yeah,
But what they are not, on the other hand, is they don't blame any one God for all the bad stuff.
yeah,
So they deny the omnipotence of any of God, even though they
yeah,
know there's. They even have a thing in one sutra that I only 5 years ago, after 55 years of study, I discovered this one thing that blew my mind again, and that is they have the actual God. Oh, that I knew a long time ago. So what was I'm losing my train? Yeah, well,
yeah,
I only discovered that they simply are against the omnipotence thing, and actually they have a
yeah.
treatise that are newly found, where that God himself was called Brahma.
Uh-huh.
He asks for sensible rishis to tell people that although he does exist, he's not omnipotent. So they can't blame him for the bad stuff. They have to take responsibility themselves and their collective, that they can make
Mm,
bad by acting like assholes, that they do.
yeah.
And we see that happening rather intensely on the planet. And so that to me was a huge thing, and it got me to forgive. I didn't really hate God, but I didn't like it
Yeah.
when I was little because I didn't like seeing his son up there, supposedly son, in the
Yeah, I
Presbyterian
know.
church I'm talking about, not Catholic Presbyterian, but
Yeah.
I didn't like seeing him hanging there. It really was.
Mm,
What is this? That's like really tasteless to inflict
yeah.
that all the time. And it must have been my sense. I think you probably know. I think you do know this, that
Mm,
you may have mentioned even in the book, but the art historians will tell you very firmly, and the archaeologists, that the
mm,
Christians, until the Council of Nicaea by Constantine,
mm.
Constantine's puppets, they did not worship the crucifix at all.
Yeah.
Like it's like if you had Jesus come today, and then somehow he got himself electrocuted, then everybody goes around wearing the electric chair and
Yeah.
see him in the electric chair.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a Roman thing showing their
Yeah.
power, actually,
Yeah.
subliminally and intimidating the pious
Mm,
person. Like they're more powerful than God. And of course,
yeah.
the theologian is making all brilliant stuff about, oh yeah, he rose from that,
Yeah.
which is the point actually.
Yeah.
But what they see every day once the Romans do it is Roman, rendering unto Caesar even your body.
Mm,
You know what I mean?
yes.
And that's
Yes. Yes.
and that's a betrayal of Christ's
Yeah.
message, 100%. You
Yeah.
know,
And
it really.
I,
So anyway, it
mm,
enabled me, just like your book enabled me
mm,
to be more tolerant about the post-death nihilism.
mm,
Your this reading enabled that other reading I mentioned enabled me to find sympathy for God, and then I
ah,
think of this point. Maybe you can write on
okay.
or your deliberations on it in another article.
Yeah.
Which is that by insisting and stressing ethical behavior in the Torah, in the New Testament, in the Christian document, and in the Quran, even by insisting on that, God is indicating He's not omnipotent, and we have
Mm,
power to screw things up, and we shouldn't.
yeah.
And that's handing over agency to us. And then one fanatic told me,
Mm,
"Oh yeah, but that's just a sign of His omnipotence." I said, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, He's omnipotent, so He withdraws from being omnipotent."
yes. And if you'll
Then I
see,
said, fine, fine, you
and,
keep that one. No
yeah,
problem.
and you'll see the book, the point you're speaking to, which is when I give up the agency to someone or something or an idea
Yeah,
outside of myself, is
yeah,
so what my life's work is saying it's all inside of you, and please just ask your questions and dig in deep to
yeah.
see where is it true. That's why I put questions at the end of each chapter, because
I
I
know
thought,
you
oh,
did. That was
I
brilliant. So you made
I
it very user friendly. Your book is very user
yeah,
friendly.
yeah.
Dying to live,
Yeah,
dying to
but
live.
but that was it speaks to your point, you know. But there's another thing that's really funny. It's interesting to share is that when my mom was killed by this drunk driver when I was 19, I happened to be taking a sociology of death class because even at that age I was confronting that fear.
Oh
And
wow.
because I confronted the fear, I had this deep sense of urgency that I have to write or express my feelings to the people that mean most to me, of which my
Yeah,
mom was the
yeah,
most important person in my life.
yeah.
And then I wrote her a letter. She got that letter, and then she was killed by the drunk driver 4 hours afterwards.
Oh
So
no.
so
Oh
this
holy
was a
cow.
this was an incredible moment, because what happened was I'm now conflicted, because to be honest with you, that letter meant nothing to me, but it meant everything to everybody else, because they looked at it as a higher power, and they looked at it must have been God's intervention to give you this moment to have written to your mother. And so had I had at that young age given up any hope in God, because I kept laughing, thinking God wouldn't have taken my mom away from me. The fact that I got the letter didn't have that much significance compared to the loss. And
Wow.
and it took me years to come back to it, which is
That's
beautiful. But
good.
yeah,
That's really intense. The Buddhist understanding of that would be about you and your mother have been
mm,
engaged for many lifetimes,
yeah,
and somehow she was given, well, not God didn't do it, but she wanted to give you some kind of gift or something, even though it's
yeah,
an accident and she didn't intentionally do that, but in a way on some other level, she was reborn especially to give you a certain weird gift of reaching your
mm,
transcendent insight, for which
yeah,
she had to give her she gave up her life. But point is, bam, it's instantaneous, hopefully, and then they're back in a place from our point of view where they can do another one, and they'll be back,
yeah,
like the
yeah,
Terminator, I'll
yeah,
be back, I'll be
yes,
back.
yeah. And it took me
Oh,
30
that's terrible
years.
though,
Yeah,
right?
but it took me 30 years to find the meaning in it. And then when I found the
Yeah.
meaning of it, of the gift of that urgency, I told my wife, I was taking a shower at the typical midlife crisis. I said, honey, I'm going to drive through America for 3 months, and I'm going to do 60 sessions and ask people to write letters to loved ones as if it'll be the last letter they ever send them. And
Oh,
I could cry talking about it because it was such an emotional
oh, that's
moment for
very
me.
good. Oh, I think I'm going to do that. I have a person who is alive,
Yeah.
and as a daughter by a first
Mm,
wife who's had a very complicated relationship
mm,
because of the behavior of the ex-wife who has now passed away,
yeah.
and who was 8 years older than me. So that means in whom
Mm,
she passed away. I was married at 18.
wow.
So
Wow.
somebody seeking motherhood. Anyway,
Yeah.
and it lasted 2.5 years, but
Mm,
we had an affair for a year before that, and she shouldn't have
mm,
married. Blah, blah. Anyway, had a beautiful daughter, and then, but at the moment, very alienated, and from not just from me, but from everybody in her life, even some of her own
yeah.
children. And so I'm wondering, I think I might try that. And
Yeah.
then
And what I
are you supposed to send it to the person?
And that's the beauty of it. That's what I learned along the way, because I hadn't done one before I did this exercise. So I was letting intuition guide me,
Ah,
what I realized was that the beauty of it was that you write with no desire outside of stating everything you want to say, and if you think I'm going to send it, you'll self-edit. So you can't think, what am I going to send this? You think, what do I have to say?
I see. Without actually, okay, unconstrained
It has to be
by
unconstrained.
reach the person,
Yeah, because
and then if it does, that sort of maybe my wife would decide if we should send it or not or something like
That's
that.
exactly, yeah. Because I
Okay.
had a very interesting situation, Bob. It was really quite beautiful. This woman who's an editor for books and does book competitions read the book, and they had a
Uh-huh.
very intense experience, and they asked if they could fly to Amsterdam to meet me to
Oh,
talk. And my wife, who doesn't take my writing seriously, said, "Hold on, someone who judges book competitions is visiting you to, you know." And I sat with that woman, and she said, "Andy, I read your book, and I wrote a letter to my estranged daughter, and
oh,
I sent it to her, and it was the most healing thing I could have done." And I thought, wow,
wow.
this is beautiful. This is incredible. Now, this woman who visits me, she dies 3 months later,
Oh my God.
and then
Wow.
fast forward a year after that, I receive a letter, or a message in this case, from the daughter that received the letter.
Oh, yeah, and what did she say? Did she
sh-
reconcile with her mother before she went from the
this
letter?
was Bob, this was the thing. She was so unhappy with what the mother wrote her that she now is a little bit angry towards me that I encouraged the mom
Oh
to write the
no.
letter. So I told her, I said, "Listen, I'm happy to hold space and hear you and let you speak and give you that opportunity just to." And she just didn't want any of it. But it was amazing because these systems are so complex and dynamic. You can't say how the letter will impact the other, obviously. But what you could say is, for that woman, 3 months before her own death, it was the most freeing thing she could do, and actually probably releasing herself to
Yes,
to
I'm
move on
sure.
to the
I'm
next
sure.
life.
I'm
Yeah,
sure. And if the daughter was angry, it was probably that means that when she got it, she didn't swallow it in some way and go and see her mom.
exactly.
And because she missed that, she felt badly when the mom died. So then
Of
she
course.
blamed you. Then, because her problem is that she's not taking agency for herself.
Agency for herself. Yeah,
She's not taking responsibility for
yeah,
her
yeah,
own attitude,
yeah,
and uh, and that is the problem. When they get like that, they just can only blame others, and then
yeah,
that makes them helpless to work on them to shape themselves in a way that
yeah.
would satisfy them.
And
And
there was
that's
that.
really one
There was a
one
chapter.
really that's so
Yeah.
interesting, Andy.
Yeah, and there was a chapter in the book, I don't know if you remember, which was on all of the different flavors of that victimization. Because what I said was that in one of the chapters speaking to that point was that when my mom died, I wrote so personal in the book as I speak to you, I could feel the tears come back
Yeah,
because I had to touch some very raw places in myself.
yeah,
I I became a victim.
yeah.
No one will ever love me like my mom loved me.
Oh,
All of the innocence of my child, I could feel the tears come up as I feel it, because it's like all the innocence of my childhood is gone. All of my faith in God is gone. Like all of it was like, and it was layer on layer on layer. So I created this self identity of
yeah.
victimhood,
Victimhood. Yes,
and
I
that
do remember
that
that.
and that kind of that self narration is
Hmm.
so dangerous because
It is.
it feels so, if I hold on to the pain of my mom, then I'm never going to lose her, or I'm not going to abandon what she meant to me, whatever the narration of it is.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
and it
Incredible.
comes and it comes in so many different flavors that it's a very subtle energy. You see it in
It
society a
is.
lot today.
It is. It is. It is. It reminds me of a story. And there's a guy named Joseph Tafur, who
Hmm.
is an MD and lives in Arizona. And he got while he was getting his medical degree in the American medical system,
Mm,
he took a lot of sabbaticals or something, and he went to the Amazon and he apprenticed to the Chipito ayahuasqueros.
hmm.
And they do therapy, a lot of it is vomit therapy. And then they also do they do this sort of sing, this Icaro, they call it. And they
Yeah.
sing to people who are in that
Mm,
condition after vomiting. And and they find these knots in their mind, in their psyche. And
Mm,
it's quite amazing, actually. But he tells a story during his thing in his book called Fellowship of the River, where he says that he there was one case of an elderly German guy who himself was a therapist. He'd done Zen, he'd done Vedanta, he'd done blah blah psychoanalysis, everything, and he was a professional. But he
mm,
was never satisfied with it. Sort of, he'd really, really made it peak, whatever. And so he had come there with some friends, and they were doing the routine, and he had a lot of good trips with them and found things. But still, he was going to leave in
mm,
2 days or something. And he still it did nothing catapulted him through to the where he would want to be. So so they brought in a lady from another tribe and they gave him a big dose at the end. And then she sang to him and all this. And then she discovered this thing where his actual birth mother died when he was only 6 months old or something, which he knew,
mm,
but he had known that. But he'd long forgotten about it or whatever, and he had a very good foster family and all that. He was healthy mentally in some other ways. And but it turned out that she discovered singing, which she hadn't been told, that his 6 months or very soon out of the womb persona remembered the loss of that warmth of that person
mm,
he was attracted to as a mom and was his mom. And though then later when he learned to speak and everything, he hardly knew there was anybody there. They just told him. But actually, his body knew, or somewhere deep in his mind,
mm.
and there was this like grief and a feeling of guilt that he had somehow caused it to her from the
Mm,
from pre personality, language, and education time.
yeah,
That's why he never found it because it was inarticulate completely, but it was there. She found
yeah,
it, and she did some singing where something unraveled and something opened
mm,
up. And then he was finally content where he was. I guess he'd
yeah,
been also expecting, I love the way you put that earlier in this talk, expecting to sort of flip out and go somewhere else. And instead, it's here, but with a different perspective on what's here. A new,
yeah.
you're a seer. You're a rishi. The seer means rishi, right? Rishi.
Oh,
So Andy Chaleff, Rishi Andy Chaleff.
yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
that's so cool.
I did this second book, which was called the Wounded Healer, which was
Uh-huh.
which was the book about the drive across America for the 3 months,
Oh, with all the different
and
letters.
with all and then I talked about the archetypes of every individual that I was meeting, and I did the practice in it, which was this. It's called projection reclamation, and I invited everyone after they wrote their letters, and there was intense subjects, to say the thing that's hardest to admit, acknowledge, say out loud, and then end it with "and it's okay." So my mom was killed by a drunk driver. It was the worst experience of my life, and it's okay. And
What
then
happened
and
to the driver? Terrible thing for him. What happened to him?
it was a female, and
Oh,
and 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 it was an interesting situation because even at that young age I understood the complexity of making decisions that were bad, that would impact you. So I didn't have anger or resentment to this individual.
yeah,
I had a strange compassion that there are consequences. You need
yeah.
to deal with the court
Oh, yeah.
system, but it
Yeah,
wasn't like an anger towards the
that was
person
good. Yeah,
themselves.
well, that shows from our perspective, your former life, you were very much
Yeah,
a yogi. You were very much a yogi.
yeah. And I
And
have a very interesting experience that
yeah.
a person close to me when I was younger recently had a car accident where they were drunk and they killed a baby in an accident. So
Oh,
I was now weirdly 35 years later having the same experience from the side of the individual who actually caused
oh,
the situation.
a baby.
And yeah, baby, he hit the two individuals. I guess he drove
Uh-huh.
off the side of a road and hit the and what for me was amazing was like I could see the same compassion that I had for this woman I had for him, of course, but I also realized that there's still implications for behavior, and that was it's this complexity that's very hard to articulate because everyone wants to make a villain when in some cases our unprocessed pain is going to come
Yeah,
out. It's going to come out in some form.
Yes, yes,
distraction, addiction, but you
yes.
hope it doesn't come out in a form that actually could hurt another, and sometimes it does.
I
And
know.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's terrible. That's really,
yeah,
really harsh, that one.
yeah.
So interesting. So anyway, have you with the Dying to Live book? Have you had a lot of feedback from people? People written you, and are you on Substack? Do you get people who want to discuss the book, or they want to discuss their
You,
own
you,
thing?
you're
You
gonna
do
laugh.
chats with them? Have you learned how to do chats with them? I do Substack too, but I haven't learned how to. I'm scared of doing chats, with lots
I'm
of people.
I'm scared of doing chats with. I live such an internal life that I want. Whoa, look at that! I look like I just got Fourth of July experience behind me. Um, I
Yeah.
lit. I'm often feeling an experience and articulating it in the moment it arises, so I can keep the experience as real and honest and shape and form as it comes. And
Oh
what I
no.
know, and if you say, Andy, I'm going to write you a chat to intellectualize this experience you had, and now we're not meeting in love and compassion and
Oh yes. Okay.
connection,
Okay.
then
Okay.
I tend not to engage in those environments because if I'm honest with myself, all I want for everybody is to go into their own deep reflection and to
Yes.
have
Of
their
course.
own
Of
experience.
course.
I don't want to answer any question. I want everyone to find the answer from within
I know.
themselves.
Of
Yeah.
course. Everyone is perfect. Actually, they
Yeah, it's
all
perfect.
are. They are just deceiving themselves when they do
Yeah.
bad shit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just deceiving
Stupid.
yourself.
They really
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
And so then institutions. By the way, my wife is very strong about that. That we
Mm.
really cannot tolerate the dictatorships, which are the
Yeah.
attempt to revive the game of kings and
Yeah.
queens, which because you can't have one person who might be projecting their own undigested pain onto the others,
On
and
to the
in a
other.
position where they can mobilize 1 million people to kill millions of people. I mean
Yes.
that then if they could maybe hurt themselves or punch the
Yeah.
wall, maybe unfortunately inflict something
Yeah.
on a few close neighbors, but otherwise it's just not possible that anybody should be
Yeah.
put in the position of
Yeah.
that magnifying that by harming so
I
many.
know.
It
And
really,
in my writing, I take on every uncomfortable subject. So, like, I spent the day with a trans woman in Japan, and then I write how if we go through life and we just love people as they are, a day could be this beautiful without us needing to make it anything more than that.
yeah, right, right.
And I
Yeah,
wrote another article that'll come out in a few weeks, which is about being in Indonesia. It's the most populous Muslim country in the world.
yeah.
And and if I talk to some Americans and they talk to me about how dangerous and bad the Muslims are, and I look at the love and the generosity and the openness of
Exactly,
heart,
exactly,
and
exactly.
I want to write to those experiences so we don't objectify people and then stigmatize them and then create
Of course,
narrative
of
and
course.
it's just and yeah, and again it's being an example of what you want to see in the world, you
That's
know.
it. That's it. Well, I think you're really doing that, and you're
Yeah,
carrying on with your work. And yes, and by now you have many clients, and that you live for help.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
outstanding without the framework of a thing. But then last thing maybe that I'd like to bring up is well, what do you with all of this? How do you make out about the sort of implications and the reverberations of people who you've worked with who think there are three options, right?
Mm,
They think there is a very big God and that God might punish them, so they're kind of scared
mm,
to die. They think there's not only no God, but there's no future consciousness at all. So
mm-hmm,
then only they have to worry about the quality of their consciousness and fear of pain of that
mm-hmm,
while alive, and once they've managed to let go, then there's no problem. And how they are as people and how they feel compared to the first one.
mm-hmm,
And then the third one, which is that they they think they will continue their consciousness, but and they will lose this
okay,
body. They're they have anxiety about how to shape a good and new embodiment. That because and
Okay.
then seeing that as an endless future concern, aiming for some state of where the seer is so strong that they could never have a bad
Yeah.
run.
Yeah.
That's that which is called enlightenment. I'm saying
Yeah.
in terms of the seer and the
Yeah.
actor. And so they see that the seer is so strong that the actor will never get stuck in a really bad identity.
Yeah.
So I see that as a possibility, giving an
Uh,
endless. So have you had clients who did a strong belief
well,
in
I mean,
life?
so so let's go through each one of the three, and I'd love to
Yeah.
share a
Okay. Good.
story
Yeah.
about each three, if
Yeah.
I may.
Okay.
So
Please. That's perfect. That's perfect.
so the first person, let's call it this identity you're describing, is a person who doesn't really want to discuss it, or is that what? Do I understand that correctly? Or how would you describe that first person?
Well, the first person who believes in God, and
Oh
that
no, no,
God will.
that was the last person I had in mind. Sorry, the one we went to, the first one,
Oh,
and then to
the
the
last one that I mentioned, which then if you make that the first one, fine.
okay,
That's the one who believes they themselves had infinite previous lives, beginningless previous lives, and they're now this human, and then the human they want to know the meaning of it all, they want the reality of it all,
yeah,
and they think without a mysterious thing, they think in a commonsensical way like you and I would think about, well, I'm going to go to New York, I have to go
okay,
down the thruway. I don't believe
okay,
in the thruway, but I just go on it. And so they feel about that will be a future situation.
okay.
And so
So
they're concerned there about, they have some anxiety about dying in that unless they're adept lucid dreamers or something, they don't know if
mm,
they really can control the subtle impulses in their consciousness
uh,
to really assure themselves of a good embodiment. So that they have a certain
okay,
anxiety in that way. Like on the other side, one of the things God might do something bad to them because they might
yeah,
have been perfect in life. They'll have that anxiety. And the one who doesn't think there's any future will not have that kind of anxiety.
okay,
They just will have a
okay.
detachment to letting go. So
So
have
so
you,
let
have
me
you,
say with
are there examples of those three?
so I would the one now that I'm a bit clear, the one we're describing of that there's iterations of life or that we're going
Yeah.
to
Okay. Right.
reincarnate.
Right.
I would see there's for me the experience of the people they're usually on my mind as a spectrum, and the spectrum that I experience is the ones who need to believe in it emotionally because they're fearful of the idea of non-existence. So it's not coming from a sensibility of I sense this in my being, but it comes from the I don't want to believe this is not true, and I don't want to believe that it's about a God, so I'm believing in this idea of reincarnation.
I see. I see.
So
Yeah.
so I see that from the person who believes in it from fear, it's a reactive state, and
Yes.
and that is as it is. There's not a lot to say to that.
Yes. Yes.
And the person who believes in it, and I would say it still has to be belief, but it's a belief that goes down to a sense of like a knowingness within them. Then
Yes.
I would call that's I'll call it almost a paradigm of experience in the world. And once you've had that paradigm, you sense what it feels like to see the world through those eyes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and that's
So
sort of how I've
yeah, that's the real one who for whom it's a commonsensical.
for whom it's commonsensical. And what I noticed is that the more it gets to someone where it's commonsensical, there's a consistency amongst all those people because they verbalize it very similarly. So you'll
Yeah.
hear them and you'll say, "Oh, that's what it looks like when it manifests in front of you."
I
So
see. I
so
see.
so
Okay.
and of course, I'll have clients that are more in that enlightenment, but our talks are laughing a lot. They're seeing one another in loving
Okay.
ways.
Oh, good.
There's one friend of mine he's a Zen Buddhist who teaches at Bloomington Jacob School of Music, Frank
Okay.
Diaz, and he's
Okay.
the most beautiful man. And when we come together, we're like two kids who get to experience the wonder of life and not
Oh,
pretend
great.
like we don't see how wonderful it is. And like, we can let all the guard down and just be present because there's no ego that's fighting against
Oh,
that.
wonderful. Wonderful.
So that would be a manifestation and what it looks like in that sense, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. And he
So
thinks he
let's,
will have a future life, you're saying this guy.
sorry.
That guy does think he'll have a future life.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
he's
yeah,
certainly in that
but
state.
in a healthy way. I get it. I get it.
In a totally beautiful, healthy way. And we're
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
and that he's the one who says, "Andy, you're a Buddhist. You don't know it, but you're a Buddhist." Just and
Ah,
he'll say it to me over. And then 3 days ago, I'm on an airplane that gets delayed, and then I miss my connection, and then I'm on a bus, and I'm
oh,
on a bus with a guy who has words across his chest that say hope. And before knowing anything, I know he's in the Catholic Church. I just know it, and there's no question that's and and we sat, and then the conversation began, and then we got to the point. We asked really beautiful questions. We went very deep, and we connected in a really beautiful way, very very
yeah,
quick. He asked
yeah,
about what God, and I told him about my mom's death, and then we got off, and he looked at me, and this has just happened to me. We're walking out of this shuttle bus, and he says,
yeah.
"Andy, what if the fact that you don't believe means there wouldn't be an afterlife?" He says, "Andy, what?" And this is a guy I've known for 5 minutes, but we're
Yeah.
really
Okay.
bonding. And I looked at him and I said, "I'm not ever going to say to you that's not the case. That's not for me to say. What I'm saying to you is, if there's any part of you that's stepping away from the discomfort that the idea that there's not an afterlife and you're not examining it, that's the area I look within myself."
I see.
And
Okay.
that man, he had half tears in his eyes, and he wanted to hug me because, in a way, through our interaction, he connected to himself.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
didn't disconnect to him. I didn't meet him intellectually. I didn't try to beat him. I didn't try
Yeah.
to convince him.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
nor was he
Wow.
trying to convince me, but we
Yeah.
had in minutes a beautiful interaction where all we
Yeah.
sat with was the
Yeah.
complexity of the emotions that arise when death is the subject.
Yes. 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 Absolutely.
And
That's
so he
absolutely.
wrote his number down, and he gave it to me, and then he said, "I want to keep in contact with you." And that was in a matter of minutes, because that's what's possible if you don't engage the world from a belief. If you don't
Yes.
say
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
wrong.
Well, that in a way, yeah, that reminds me of Dalai Lama. There was some interreligious conference in Finland. You can see this on
Mm,
YouTube. And
mm,
different people are giving the rabbi and the this and that are giving their views of their beliefs. And then Dalai Lama is the one they address at the end. And they say, well, now, what do you believe, Your Holiness? And then he says, well, I have a little bit of problem with the idea of belief, he said.
yeah,
Instead of saying, I believe this and that, he said, I have a problem with the idea. And not that there's no such thing, but, there's different kinds that he went into. And yeah, yeah. Having a belief dominate your your experience actually,
yes, yeah,
rather than be a kind of window that you could use, but
yeah,
not it doesn't the whole thing. And
yeah.
that's totally, of course, that all the index psychologies, which are, sometimes the Dalai Lama likes to be naughty. And once I was
Mm,
listening to him, and he in Goa, and the University of Goa University, he was giving a
mm,
lecture. And then at the end of the lecture, he was talking about Buddhist psychology and stuff. And then somebody asked him, well, what about modern psychology? And he was just kind of getting ready to leave. It was like the last question.
yeah.
So he was almost like, picking up his whatever like this. But then he turned to address it. And then he said, then he kind of looked a little sneaky, like he does. I know that when he does something naughty, he likes to be
Yeah,
naughty because he likes to not be on a pedestal.
yeah.
So in the naughty Dalai Lama, he looks and he says, Western, or I think modern psychology is, and he says, kindergarten. And then he leaves with a laugh, with a cackle, and kind of a guiltily almost. He says,
Yeah.
kindergarten. And he runs away. So, in that, I think, isn't it? It's my thing lately. It's like, you know, they're trying to help people be cured. I think you say about it, help them find themselves. But I think
Yeah.
that's very similar to what I think of as help them overcome the fear of reality.
Yes.
Since you are
Yes.
real and you're in reality and you can't get away from reality, and
No.
you can have inner experiences where you think reality is infinite space or something. You can
Yeah.
have them easily because we're amazingly reifying beings. But But the point is, we're in, it will always still be reality, and yet they're afraid of reality,
Yes.
and they're afraid of themselves.
Yeah.
And
Which
after
is a
years
reason
of
for that exercise.
I used to
Yeah.
give a course at this little college I was in, and my wife will either get it or they'll forget about it. And we are coming along in time, but stop that. I'm sure I should have taken that away, but never mind. That's just
No,
life.
that's okay.
It's reality.
Yeah.
And and what is it? Yeah. That reality, that Buddha's nirvana discovery, and I think your personal discovery, without it being having to be Buddhist or Christian or whatever it is,
Yeah.
or your guru,
Yeah.
whether he was Krishnamurti was so great in refusing to be deified and to be
Hmm.
gurufied in the way he
Yeah.
did, and that story is really wonderful.
Yeah, I was going to say, speaking to that point, that was why this exercise that I use so regularly is
Yeah.
take the most extreme thing that you so don't want to say or
Yes,
admit,
yeah.
and then you dispel it from yourself just by saying it's okay. I even say, and it's effing great. Like you almost have to it will not occupy any space, negative space in my consciousness.
Yes, yes.
My mom was killed by a drunk driver. It devastated my life, and it's effing great. And it's not that
So actually, it was
nothing.
the key. It was the key to the excellence of your life. Actually,
It was the key to the excellence of my life. Yes,
really,
yeah.
poor
There was a
mom.
third. There was a third
Yeah,
group that it would be great to touch on because you had the two, but there was the third, which was the atheist.
yeah.
And,
No, no, that's the third one who thinks there's been not, who's sure there's nothing. My
okay,
grandfather was that.
so I had interestingly, I did a podcast and I had 200 or 300 episodes during COVID, and the episode that got most that people wanted to like have most often were these
Yeah,
atheist episodes. Everyone
yeah.
was like, my God, like they needed these episodes, and they were very,
I
very
know.
starch. They're very, very, and so one of these people who edited all of my podcasts was a dear friend, and he was an
Oh,
atheist, and he turned 55, I think, and he said, Andy, I'm divorcing my wife. I'm really going to live my life finally. I'm going to experience this, and I'm going to have what everything I missed. And then fast forward a year after that, and he says, Andy, I'm going to end my life.
oh
and
no.
and he says, I the only thing I could do is I don't want anything from you. Will you just be there? Will you just allow me to hold space? Because everyone else is not giving me any space for this, and I
Yeah.
just feel, and it was one of the hardest things that I, and of course not encouraging, but he felt even a little bit of trying to move him back, and hey, you can try this, you can go. He saw all my tricks. Why don't you come to my house? I'll pay for it. You can stay with me for a few months. And he says, Andy, if think about it, if these are the last few weeks of my life, why would I do that? Hey, I've got this
And then
job. This is,
he really did it. He killed himself.
and then he finally ended his life.
Yeah.
And I wrote an article for that for Esquire magazine last year that was really popular. It was quite
Yeah.
something. And but the intensity, I got a lot of criticism for it as well, like what a horrible person I was, and all of this really,
I
really
know, from the
hor
theist, yes. Well,
yeah,
the thing is this, one thing I was wanting to say to you that
yeah,
when we were cataloging the three types,
yes,
from the Buddhist point of view, the death wish of a human being is very much part of them. That is to
mm,
say, it isn't like the materialists who are trying to defend against any. Of course, they think future life automatically means God, and it
mm,
automatically means Catholicism or Judaism or whatever it is,
yeah,
and so or Islam. But so they think that. So they think that former future life is a childish projection of a fantasy because
mm,
it's so difficult, and they think they're so brave to embrace nothingness.
yes,
That's the whole existentialist thing. But
yeah,
that's completely wrong from the Buddhist point of view because only because the death wish is so powerful because of our experience in life, which is we have experienced, if you're 50, 60 years old, you've had 10, 20, 30,000 times of becoming unconscious and falling asleep to
yes,
great delight, and you'll
yeah,
get asked for Ambien if you can't fall asleep, of sleeping
yeah,
pill. and we associate being unconscious with relief.
Yeah.
So there's it's a pretense from that point of view to oneself that there's a bravery at being obliterated. We
Mm.
welcome anesthesia on the operating table, even in the dentist chair.
Yeah.
So in other words, nothingness means eternal nothingness means eternal anesthesia. At
Yeah.
least it might be boring. There's no ice cream. There's no Substack. There's no Dharma. There's no whatever delight. But there's no pain, and that's a very powerful part of the human being. So,
Yeah.
so the Buddhists in the debate with that side, wouldn't the Buddhists are against eternal damnation, of course, 100%.
Yeah.
But the Buddhist gives us the agency that we can make life into Gaza. We can make
Yeah.
life into total famine in Somalia. You know what I mean? We can create
Yeah.
hell. We do, but it's never eternal. But we do create it,
Yeah.
and so that's a very. I personally think that's a valid point. That the idea of just it relates to a kind of wonderful thing about nihilists or atheists in the
Mm.
sense of or those who will not tolerate the future life idea because it's
Mm.
associated with the punishment by God, you see, and pain.
Yeah.
Whereas the one who sees it as up, still it's going to be up to them in the next life too, just to some in relation to others. But just like in this life, we're going to have some pain. I sort of stub my toe and whatever, but I'm going to avoid as much as I can
Yeah.
pain. So it'll be that kind of effort
Yeah.
continues until we imagine, because of its endlessness, that there must be a place where the seer really is in charge, and you won't
Mm.
ever find that you won't be attracted to any negative womb or even an
Mm.
egg, even an egg.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And like a chicken egg or a lizard egg or something. It will not.
Yeah.
So I mean, anyway, these are the differences. But anyway, I'm thanking you in your book in that you remain agnostic, so the atheists will be mad at you, which is
Yeah.
very good,
Exactly.
and and you're dealing with the issue of letting go. And also, by the way, you remember Stephen Levine. I'm sure you know all about Stephen
Yes.
Levine. I don't know if you
Yes.
ever personally knew him. I knew him.
No. Oh,
But I
yes.
loved one thing that he said. He said that sometimes, in this kind of thing, and you might be accused of that, that if you get into helping people in a hospice type situation, settle for the situation and let go and be
Mm.
calm and peaceful and loving, then they're not fighting to stay alive, and that's bad.
Yeah.
And but he said that the people who do have miraculous remissions and that sort of thing are
Mm.
always people who have accepted that they could go. In
Yeah.
his experience of like thousands of people, because he was like a pre-hospice institution,
Mm.
hospice person, as you know, whatever her name was, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so anyway, it's wonderful. I love it. I'm going to
Yeah.
look at your two early books, and I think maybe
Yeah.
we should call. We've gone about an hour, and it's
Yeah.
more than people usually can tolerate.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
What would be your last that thing for people, who might meet you through your book or
Mm.
any of them, The Last Letter,
Mm.
or The Wounded Healer, or this latest wonderful one that I know, which is the Dying to Live one.
Yeah.
Is there any last sort of little peroration you would like to
There's
read
a
in that?
theme. There's a theme you latched onto, which is it's interesting because it's such a live theme for me, and I could see you through your articulation. It's the same for you. Is this sense of agency that when you understand the deepest sense of what that feels like in your life, that
Mm-hmm.
anything that anyone does to you or creates as an emotion within you is only a mirror to learn from and to grow and to
Mm-hmm.
take. And so, what I would leave is that the greatest gift you have is the tension that's in front of you at any given moment. And
Uh-huh.
if my writing helps people see how someone authentically deals with that without teaching or
Uh-huh.
preaching, like
Uh-huh.
that's the
Uh-huh.
gift that I would love, is the gift of
Okay.
how to hold the complexity of emotions without turning it outside of yourself, and have compassion for yourself, for the situation, for the other, and realize it's all just a creation in our heads.
That's
So,
really good.
yeah,
That's a perfect description of what we call the mirror-like wisdom.
yeah,
The Adarsha Vajnana. Really wonderful. Well,
yeah.
listen, Andy Chaleff, you like to say Chaleff.
It's all this Chaleff is great as well. Yeah,
Chaleff.
yeah.
Andy Chaleff, wonderful book. Can you wave the book for people?
Yes, yes,
It's,
I have
it's
it here.
I couldn't find, yeah, Dying to Live.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a great title too, boy. People do
yeah,
say that, They
yeah,
do say
yeah,
that anyway.
yeah.
So
Yes.
thank you all very much, and we'll be
Thank
back
you.
at another time. And it's been a great pleasure, Andy. Really, I've loved
It's
it to
been
catch
great to
you in
be with
Puerto
you.
Rico. Well, now, do you sometimes talk from Indonesia? I mean, it's only 12 hour. You're late
I mean,
early morning.
I go wherever I'm asked to go, and it's always very real. It's in the moment. It's engaging people with where they are and not trying to teach. As you
I
already
know.
see,
I know one thing
that's
I
it.
do love personally myself, I think maybe because I'm in my 80s now, I feel very present with someone through Zoom, actually, or any one
Yeah,
of these, say the
yeah,
meet up or whatever they are.
yeah,
I feel you're here and I'm there. I really do feel
yeah,
that. Saves on the
yeah.
gas also.
Well, I look forward to seeing you in person. I will be in New York in 2 weeks, so I hope to
Oh,
see you
good. Oh, maybe
with our
we'll,
mutual friend.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah. Well, you might,
yes.
do you ever do weekend retreats with your followers and friends when you visit like New York?
You know what I did, Bob? It's very interesting. I
Yeah,
noticed because of my writing, as I told you, is so intimate. I'm so raw and I'm so letting my vulnerability out on the page
yeah.
that if I get a group of 10 people, I can sense the overwhelm of bringing in all of that
Uh,
emotion around me. And I've had compassion for myself to say, oh, wow, that's not
I,
my
I,
forum. That's not where I
I
can
see.
do it. And I do it actually, I think I would say I do it well, but it comes at a cost on the back end because
I see.
it's
Well,
almost like, yeah. And you came to my book launch. Did you see? I
yeah,
mean, I cried half the way through, all of my
yeah, I
sharing
did see that. I did see that. I did see
because
that.
that is that
But
I'm,
actually, the book launch
yeah,
is different. What I'm talking about is we do have this retreat center my wife made here in the
I
Catskills
know,
in
of
the
course.
Magic Valley. I don't think did you go there? You've been there?
I've
No.
never been there,
Yeah.
no, but I know
Well,
of it.
that's precisely the strength of this place is it's not like Omega or Kripalu or these huge things
Yeah,
where they have hundreds of people. And we do
yeah,
have smaller groups and there's a spa and it's very intimate. And so it would be only if it would ever serve your purpose in that when
yeah,
you place where you have like half a dozen kind of what somebody, a guru might say advanced students, but you
yeah.
would say long-term clients and you don't have
Yes.
time to see them all in depth one by one. Do think of us. That's all I'm saying. Do
Oh,
think.
that I
I
love
probably
because
won't put
that's
this in this podcast, but
yeah,
they'll
exactly.
probably cut it
Well,
for us.
this is now you're speaking my language because to be in what would we say that in an intimate setting where vulnerability in groups, like my God, that's what I live for. That is life. That is the
Yeah,
beauty
yeah,
of
yeah.
life. Yeah,
And
I
then
understand.
in Japan they call it ichi. Oh my God.
Ishin denshin, ishin denshin.
So yeah, maybe the forest bathing. So to me,
Well,
that's what I say.
I lived in Japan for a few years, and
Oh,
Ishin
good.
Denshin is this idea that we're so intimate with one another that we can read each other's minds because we understand
Oh.
so well where they are. So I didn't know if that was the term you were
Oh,
pointing
ichi.
at or not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is one. That's our motto here. And
yeah,
we have a Shinto shrine in a rock. We have
yeah.
a
Oh,
blue dragon in a rock. The
yeah.
guy came from the Shinto thing and was very
Uh,
fortunately installed in a certain rock by the
it's
road.
beautiful.
And and then the forest bathing is that national treasure in Japan who proves that
Yeah,
just being in the forest it does this stuff to you and so on.
yeah,
So anyway, it's a
yeah.
beautiful little hidden. It's a magic Shambhala Valley sort of thing. So
Beautiful.
just to have it in your consciousness, we'd love
Oh,
to host you sometime.
I would love to
Okay,
do that. Absolutely.
that I just couldn't resist that mentioning that to you.
Please. Yeah.
Okay, so have a
Okay.
wonderful time. And then where are you going from Puerto Rico? You're going to
From Puerto Rico, I'll be in the United Kingdom for a week, and then after that, I'll be in New York.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great.
And then
Okay.
I'll see our mutual friend, and I'll see another
Yeah.
friend, and
Well,
a
that'd
lot
be
of
great.
work here and there.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
might get that. We're up in Woodstock now. We finally came back from the city where we've been.
Uh,
That's why I
yeah.
was able to get to your book signing. But
That's
and
good.
it's a long drive to get there from here, or not too bad. But I'll try to come if you do a thing.
Yeah, I would love to. Well,
Okay.
Matt has invited me to join some of the galas and things, but I've always had other things going on, so I've never
I
got
know, I
to
know.
visit.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Okay, right.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. And
So
we always
grateful for your
we
time.
dedicate. May the merit of this dialogue go to help everybody discover themselves as soon as possible. And so then they'll
Yes.
be happy with themselves and they'll be make other people happy.
I
Okay?
can only,
All
yes.
the
Thank
best.
you. Have a good
Okay.
day.
Okay.
Bye.
You too. You too. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Have a great
Bye.
day. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
The Bob Thurman Podcast is produced through a Creative Commons No Derivatives license. Please be sure to like, share, and repost on your favorite social media platforms. And is brought to you in part through the generous support of the Tibet House US Menla membership community and listeners like you. To learn more about the benefits of Tibet House membership, please visit our websites at thus.org, menla.org, and bobthurman.com. Tashi Delek, and thanks for tuning in.